Our national host wanted to learn more about Byrum Brown.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Today's show features a conversation that I had with Spencer McLaughlin. He's the host of Locked On College Football. He said, hey, Auburn got a really good quarterback. I need to have you on to talk about him. Here's that conversation.
Does Auburn finally have its savior? For the sake of my next guest, Zach Blackerby of Locked On Auburn, I hope so. I certainly hope so. Is Byron Brown that guy, Zach? Is he going to be Devin Dampier Southeast?
I hope so. I mean, you can't hide the production. You know, just a handful of college football players have ever thrown for 3,000, rushed for 1,000 yards in a single season. You look at the list of these modern guys, it's first-round picks, Heisman finalists, Super Bowl champions, because Jalen Hurts is on there. And then it's Byron Brown. You know, I do think a lot of people are overlooking this because it was kind of obvious that he was always going to Auburn to follow Alex Golesh, despite reportedly, you know, a few schools being interested, kind of testing the waters to say, hey, would you go anywhere else? But this is a match made in heaven for Alex Golesh and Byron Brown. They ascended, they outperformed, they leaned over their skis, whatever, you know, saying you want to use for what they accomplished at USF and turning that program around. They said, okay, let's do it in the SEC now. Let's do it in the SEC. Right after Byram's announcement was public, he met with, you know, local media and kind of a scrum out in front of the lobby at Auburn's athletic department. And he just talked about, like, look, we did this before at USF, and I trust Alex Golesh. He wants to do it here. And I said, let's go. I trust that he can do that. Byron Brown's making a big commitment here. He knows what's at stake. He knows that he has the ability to really perform if he finds the system that makes sense for him. And so obviously he chose Alex Golesh because, you know, he operated in his system, you know, over the last few seasons. So the impact could be absolutely tremendous for Byron Brown and Auburn.
And at least he's coming into a situation where, you know, he knows he's going to be the veteran example for quarterback of the future. Deuce not. Oh, wait, no, he's gone.
Nope.
Well, at least he's going to have Cam Coleman to throw the. Oh, no,
nope.
He's not. Well, at least he's going to have a left tackle who started 12 games last year. Block. Oh, no, not gonna do it.
He does have a left tackle who started 12 games 2 years ago at Michigan State. They added Stanton Ramil from Michigan State.
There you go.
Doing that information
Stanton. Good. Good first name.
His name. It's like,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Matt Sheehan, mixed opinions on him, host of Locked On Spartans. But yeah, look, I mean, they're bringing all the USF guys down. You know, essentially his whole receiving core, minus Keyshawn Singleton, who was their leading receiver. There's still talks of, you know, I think Auburn expects for them to land, but Chaz Nimrod, who spent 3 years at Tennessee, then this last season at USF, led USF in yards per reception a year ago, like 20.2 or something. Jeremiah Coger, who was an explosive freshman, was second in receiving for USF last year. Christian Neptune, their starting slot last year. His game's out of this world. Get it? Planet pun?
Yeah.
Planet pun? We okay with that?
He's a funny guy.
And then Corey Pettigrew's another guy. I don't think he really plays into the 2026 scheme. And then their tight end from last year as well, Jonathan Eccles, coming over. Oh, yeah, and their running back, Davenport, coming over. So, yeah, getting the band back together, all of USF, at least the skill positions, coming up to the Plains, Spencer.
I mean, you know, at least they're good enough to beat bottom tier SEC teams like Florida. So you got
they beat as many SEC teams last year as we did. So
that's got to be a humbling sentence to say out loud.
I've said it a bunch. I'm kind of desensitized to it now, but the first few times it stung a little bit. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, can't really get past. I don't think you can ever fully get past that that particular sentence.
What do you think about that, right? Like, so obviously Auburn fans are tying. There are parallels, right? It's not the same thing because they've got to do it, but like the model of just getting guys that fit what you want to do and have the culture. Like we saw Kurt Cignetti do this when he brought all these guys from JMU over to Indiana. I'm not saying it's the exact same thing, but it is a similar thing. What do you think about that, Spencer, as far as like bringing the culture over? That was a big thing talking about Auburn. Like the culture was messed up. You're having to flip this roster, flip the culture. What do you think about bringing all these South Florida guys to the SEC day one, essentially overnight?
I think it's the safer option if you're Alex Golesh. I don't think that makes it the wrong option. It's the safer option to kick a field goal on 4th and 3 when you're up by 6 to go up 9, when you could instead try to go for it, convert, and go up 13. That has a bigger payoff, but there is real legitimate value in kicking the field goal there. So if you've got a reliable kicking game, you take those points, and I think that's what Alex Golesh is doing here. I think there's a world where in 2 years' time, once a couple recruiting classes, a couple portal classes have come through the program, we look back at year one Alex Golesh and say, wow, that team just wasn't nearly as talented as what the team he's able to put on the field now. And I still think that it's the right move, even though that's the case. Like you could probably find guys with a higher rating, maybe some better traits, but when you're coming into a situation like Auburn, you do need to have that cultural establishment. You've got to come in and establish your identity as a coach on the field and off the field, and there are no better group of guys to do that with than the guys who just turned around South Florida and made them an American Conference contender. I mean, that program until he got there had been awful. Down. It had been down bad for a long time. Long time.
3 years.
Yeah, it had been really, really bad. So I also look at what the modern world of college football presents, and I'm not sitting here telling you the SEC is basically the same as the American just because South Florida, beat Florida, right, or anything ridiculous like that. But a point I have made repeatedly on my show, Zach, is the gap between the middle of college football and the top of college football is not as big as it used to be. And when you have a proof of concept with a lot of those guys, and you're going to work in some Auburn players and quote-unquote SEC caliber guys who are higher rated and whatnot, I don't see how Alex Golesh doesn't win games in year one. I don't know that it's going to result in 9 or 10 wins, but I think expecting 7 or 8 finally for the Auburn Tigers is more than reasonable.
We continue our conversation with Spencer in just a moment right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Rocket Money. Let's be real. Managing your finances can feel overwhelming between your subscriptions you forgot about, bills that keep going up, and trying to figure out where all your money actually goes each month. It's easy to feel like you're losing control, and who has time to track every single transaction? Well, that's where Rocket Money comes in, the personal finance app that helps you take control of your finances here in 2026. Monitors your spending, helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon, rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That is rocketmoney.com with me. Say it with me, /lockedon. Here we go. Yeah, I also think the positions he's bringing from South Florida are positions that make sense. Like if he brought the entire O-line or the entire D-line, I'd be like, I don't know. Like physically, there's a difference there. But this offense that he runs, it demands speed. You've got to beat guys that are lining up across from you. You got to beat them towards the end zone. And if you're fast at these guys are blazing, right? They've all have elite speed. Like that's going to translate. I'm not worried about that. It's the physicality and the grind week in and week out. And you don't see that as much at the skill positions. And so at this point, there's been no USF trench players. There's been very little trench players at all, which I do have a concern about. That's now my biggest question with this. But as far as the receivers and the defensive backs that they've brought in, and obviously Byron Brown, I feel great about it. It's just now, okay, can you get that offensive line to block for him? You've brought in Stanton Ramil. Okay, there's some injury questions there, some health questions, but I get it. We need a few more of those guys so they can come in and compete for jobs.
Really quick, Ashton Daniels went to Florida State, and at the end of the year, did some nice things.
He looked good. Yeah.
For Auburn. He looked pretty good. You talked about him as potentially being in contention to be Auburn's starter for Alex Golesh in 2026. Obviously, that's not the case. Right. So he's going to Florida State. What's your read on him going there?
As in, like, why is he going there, or why did he leave Auburn, or what kind of
what you think he brings to Florida State? Like, should the Seminoles say, yeah, this is our starting quarter,back, or is he just kind of a guy you put in the room?
Yeah, I think he's good enough to be a starter. He's going to be an incredible locker room guy. I mean, he came here knowing he was going to be Jackson Arnold's backup, a proven P4 starter at Stanford, who was just okay there. And, Hugh Freeze said it when Ashton Daniels committed. It's like, I think the guys that we're going to have around him are a little bit better than the guys he was playing with at Stanford. And he was right, especially when the offense opened up. What he did against Vanderbilt, what he did against Alabama, extremely productive, both on the ground with his legs and with his arm. It's the best Auburn's offense has looked in a hot minute. And it's a shame it took guys getting fired for that really to get opened up. But in a Gus Malzahn system, it makes sense. It makes sense. He's mobile. He can make good decisions. And I don't think he's a guy that's going to necessarily like lose you a game in a clutch situation. So small sample size as far as what we really got to see from Ashton. The story with him is interesting, Spencer. He, Golesh came in and like met with all the guys. According to some texts that Ashton have like sent fans, or some DMs that Ashton has sent fans, and then people screenshotted and shared on social media and in message boards and all that. And I was told this before it happens. Like, I do believe that this is all true. It doesn't sound like Golesh made any intent to meet with Ashton Daniels. And I think
he probably knew he was going with Byron Brown.
But I think Ashton would have been fine staying at Auburn as a backup. I think he wanted to be here.
Really?
So little surprised by all that. Yeah, and I mean, there's a handful of fans that don't like how that really played out.
I could see that. I mean, he's a very easy guy to like, really easy going, nice dude, smart kid, just wants to play some football. Or, okay, being a backup. I think it's kind of crazy with the tape that he put out there. I mean, he was about to lead Auburn to the win in the Iron Bowl, and then Cam Coleman fumbled.
Who?
I don't know either. Zach Blackerby, Locked on Auburn. I know exactly who he is. He hosts the #1 Auburn Tigers podcast out there. Did you know? Did you know you're #1? Did you have a?
I did.
Did you have an awareness about that? Yeah, that's pretty good. That's because he's a stud. So is Kurt Signetti, and you just cannot overstate how good of a coach that guy is.
All right, yeah. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you to Spencer for having me on again, and most importantly, thank you for you. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked on Auburn.